Most signature guitars have one or two quirks to them. The Triplecaster, strap in. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I'm excited for this. We have not seen a signature guitar get this crazy since the Ghost Teles. This thing even comes with its own personal warning about it, strapped to your fretboard, brand new, sealed from the box. That warning being, it is way too beautiful. Nah, just kidding. We'll talk about that later. This is the new Jack White signature Triplecaster. It's kind of like a Telecaster, but we've got 3 pickups. We've got a Bigsby, modified bridge, crazy electronics. You can see we've got a satin finish on the neck with a triple dot just to match the name. There's triples going on all over this thing. And what is that, 7 tuners? Nah, it's just one of those D-tuner things on the back. This thing just has way too many things going on in a good way. I mean, check it out, an armrest again, just like the Mary Ford Les Paul. But we're not talking about the 50s today, we're talking about the now. So if you're not familiar with Jack White, you might be familiar with the White Stripes. You know, the song that all the guitar players play at the music store. Duh, 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 duh. He was the frontman, guitarist, vocalist of that group, but he also has a solo career where he's just blending in things we have not seen in modern day music in a long time. Raw guitar that's very riff focused and just in your face. Blend that with his unique vocal style. It's just magical. You guys know me, I detail guitars very seriously. So while I'm cleaning them, I usually listen to some music. Instead of the regular old stuff that I always listen to, I thought, I'm just gonna go to Apple Music, click rock and see what plays. And this song, You Got Me Searching, came on. It's like, holy cow. Is this something old? And then I look it up. No, it's like essentially new. And then when I figured out it was Jack White, I had just saw these Triplecasters came out and I was like, okay, I'm definitely documenting that guitar now. And the day after that, Brett messages me and says, hey, let's new guitar day this thing. And I said, yeah. So if nothing else, check out some of Jack's new music. You're gonna love it if you're a guitar player. He's very deserving of this. And that's not to say that other artists that have gotten signatures from Fender don't, but what I like is it's so inventive. It's his own thing. He went through many different designs over the years, and he's got tons of different colors to these things. But this is the production version that you can buy from Fender USA. That's right. You can get a guitar looking this good outside of the custom shop. I mean, this one's so crazy they had to rename it from the Telecaster to the Triplecaster and put it on the headstock. So these retail for $3,500, which is quite expensive for one of those. But not only do we have 3 pickups, we've got some very fancy electronics. Like, word on the street is, out of all the master luthiers at Fender, there's only like a handful of them qualified enough to do the crazy wiring job like this. Because you might have noticed, hey, Telecasters normally only have 2 knobs. What's this third one? Oh, uh-oh. Did I break the knob? No, it's just more shenanigans. This is a knob, but it's also a 3-way switch. But next you might notice all these white accents. A lot of times on guitars, you'll notice chrome hardware or nickel, something like the bridge. This is a similar process, but it's a powder-coated white, just to give it the unique vibes that this thing has. And then they match it pretty much everywhere, even with your neck plate, the tuner tips, even the string tree has it. But that's what this warning's about. They're basically saying, yeah, this is gonna scratch and wear very easily. We tried to tell Jack it was a bad idea because people are gonna moan and complain about it, so we made this sheet so you understand from the get-go. As far as other case candy, you do get your regular COA, Fender tag with all your good info on it. Haven't we been good this year? Triple silica packets. Lessons tag, owner's manual, truss rod and intonation Allen wrenches, case key and sticker, all of which can be housed in our usual Fender zippy bag. But this house also needs a house. Check out this case. Fender, I wish you would talk to your case supplier and find one that doesn't shed. When we first opened this thing, it's just covered over in the guitar. But if you can live past that, this is a gorgeous orange interior, which is a far cry from the black and white theme of the instrument. But when you close this, check out what they've done here. You get the white lining on the edge, and then the rest of this is like a regular black Fender case, except for they give it the white accent at the handle. Everything matched over here, but then look at this. The Fender badge is just like completely different and yellow, which just happens to match the interior. So first impressions, it's not as crazy in person as it seemed in photos, but this is gonna be a lot of fun to tear this thing apart to see what makes it tick and go over all the detailed specs with you, because Jack White put his heart and soul into this, and I can appreciate that. So let's go ahead and throw this thing over onto the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. It's time to get nitty gritty. Let's talk about these pickups. So you might notice they're all vastly different sizes. So let's start with this one. It is officially known as the Jack White humbucker, but you can see it kind of has some gold foil aspects to it. You find these in things like Cabernita Teles, which look like this. They normally have 2 of those and some sort of a short pick guard. We documented a parts caster Sarah Ray painted one once. I'm a big fan of Cabernita Teles. So you can see that's kind of where they borrowed this pick guard design from as well. But underneath the pickup, you've got 2 foam blocks. It looks like a barcode. Since this one's pre-sold, I'm not going to rip that up just to show you, but just know it says something Jack White. But you can see through to your ash body. That is a nice spec on these. A little bit more on that in a second. But our middle pickup is actually a P90. We just recently documented the Chris Shiflett Foo Fighters Telecaster, and that one, it was called the CS90. This one, despite not having any pertinent markings on the back, is called the JW90, Jack White spec'd. So this has that white powder coated cover, so around here is going to chip eventually, but it looks like the plastic bobbin of the pickup will stay white. The same thing is true on the humbucker. It's got all this covered, but you can still see some of the white bobbin poking through. Inside its cavity, we can see more of the ash body, as well as our serial number poking through again. But our front pickup is a lot of fun. This is a real Kunifi pickup. So Kunifi, spell it out, it's elements. Cu, copper, Ni, nickel, Fe, iron. We're used to hearing Alnico when it comes to pickups. So this is a wide-ranged humbucker using the elements that people pine for. This is not a fake wide range. So that's something to get excited about in here and cool to see get implemented, but it's just a cover put over top of it that does indeed to be soldered into place. And in order to do that, you can see they scrape off some of the powder coating so it'll actually stick. But unfortunately, some QC details on this one in our cavity. We've got an extra screw hole over here, like they installed the pickup incorrectly at first, and then they moved it. But does it really affect the guitar much? Not really. But again, we can see through to the ash wood grain. But I told you, more on this ash body in a second. This is not a regular Telecaster. It's actually chambered. So let's go ahead and break out that endoscope for the inaugural use of our new one. So here we go inside of the cavity. So we've got a whole route that goes up here and then it gets closed off. This is what sleeps underneath our pick guard that we'll talk about in a minute. And then you can see our pickup wires running through here. So it's not like a big open cavity necessarily. It appears to be more like a center block over here. But over here you can see our output jack route and more of the ash wood grain. And yeah, we can definitely see that these are being made of multiple pieces of ash. There's a seam line right there. So to sum that up, basically there's just a big route out of the body right there. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's a similar route over here. Knocking on it, yeah, it about confirms it for me. So that was a surprise, but now let's talk about our pick guard. It is 1-ply white plastic, and all things considered actually pretty thick. But what is this black thing? It is a kill switch. Kind of. But on the back side it looks like this, and you got 2 wires that run to it. And as far as the brand, it is a Tele switch, which a lot of people do use. But those green and black wires go down here to your tilt-a knob. Looks like one joins a white wire up here and then a black one down there. But speaking of the rest of the wiring, here it is. I'm not a wiring guy, so if you're trying to copy this video to wire your own guitar up like that, unfortunately, I might not be too much help there, but I can at least give you an up-close look, because there is our 3-way toggle switch. Just a couple of white wires going to it. And we've got CTS pots behind it that just have a whole bunch of stuff going on. And then our tilt-a-whirl knob. It looks like this. It's got this red base to it with many different selections. But speaking of controls, let's talk it through. So this is a regular 3-way toggle switch. And this is a master volume, master tone. And then this guy, he's a little bit confusing because, again, he's got 3 positions himself, but this just keeps spinning forever. And depending on what position this knob is in, changes what your 3-way toggle switch is doing. But after toying around with this, it doesn't actually appear that the moving of the knob does anything. This could basically just be a mini toggle, but he wanted all the triples. 3 knobs, 3 pickups, 3 inlays. It's called the Triplecaster for a reason. So this thing seems to use the kill switch in the fact that when you have it up, it takes the signal out. permanent kill switch, it's a standby. You gotta talk to people on stage. In the regular position, this is acting like normal. So bridge 6.5, neck position 8.12, and then the middle pickup 8.2-ish. In this position, your volume works as usual. Your tone works as usual. Down here is kind of funny because his name is Jack. It's direct to Jack. It takes all the other wiring out of the circuit. So it's kind of like on Gibson modern ones where you flip it up, it goes direct to the bridge. The main difference with the direct to Jack is your three-way toggle switch is still in position, so it's not necessarily the usual direct to bridge as we call it. It's just taking everything else out of the circuit, which will give it a slightly different tone. So in this wiring scheme, the bridge is 6.58, middle pickup 8.35, and neck 825. So you can see that is slightly different here as compared to having everything else in the circuit. But now I was kind of confused. If we have a standby here, what was I wrong about this? Okay, so how this is acting, if you push and hold it, it turns off, but then it comes back up. So it is kind of a momentary stutter, but listen to it, please. It's a very clicky switch. I'm just trying to say it's not for buckethead stuff. You're not going to be able to do super fast tappy stuff. It would take some reprogramming of how you're used to doing it. But on a Tele, the toggle switch is so in between things doing that to get a similar effect. I could see why he might just want to do right there. So all things considered, it's not as complicated as some people are making it out to be, but it does have a lot of tonal opportunities here. Okay, now let's move on to the bridge. If you're asking, hey, why is this chrome/nickel? Why is it not powder coated? It's because there's a lot of moving areas right here. Could you powder coat a saddle? Sure, it's just gonna wear out really easily. And honestly, I think it would have just been too much white, but it's sawn off. It still attaches using 4 screws. It's technically a string through as well. They just didn't drill it for it, so you have to string it up with the Bigsby stock. But if you wanted to take a drill bit and put some ferrules through the back, you technically could. But this is a Bigsby B5C model, and it's all powder coated except for in the areas where there is movement. So right here, your string tension bar. You don't really want your strings on that. It's going to chip away. You don't want to put it around here because that bar needs to move. And some of it I think is also aesthetics. I mean, could they? Sure. But the whole white and chrome thing does look pretty nice. And he's using one of these bent arms on it. That does indeed have a white tip on it. Now let's talk about the arm guard. I took it off just so we could get a closer look at it. I didn't know if this was going to be metal that was powder coated or if it's plastic. The answer is it's plastic. So you don't have to worry about your arm wearing that off necessarily. It's just a plastic guard. You could remove it if you don't like it, but it is kind of cool that it has these scallops at the end. Makes it kind of fancy looking. But just as a forewarning, if you want to take it off because it bugs you, it does leave quite a sizable scratch/indentation into the guitar, as well as the 3 screws along the edge. That's good that it's not metal though, because it's not going to feel as cold because of that. The plastic's a little bit better insulated. It is quite chunky though. It sticks off the body quite a bit. I'm curious if he put it on there more for aesthetics or if he actually likes the arm guard. But if you're scared this is going to change the blocky feel of a Telecaster, don't worry. It is minimally beveled. It still kind of has that regular Tele ridge to it. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the body. Now let's move on to the neck. It seems the longer and longer you look at this thing, the more you realize that he's done. Can't wait to get to the back on this one. So, if you're a Les Paul guy like me, you're going to love the fretboard radius on this. It is 12 inches. You don't find that in Fender land that often. Many times they'll range from 7 1/4 to 9 1/2. Sometimes you'll get compound fretboard radiuses that'll go as flat as 14. But just a standard 12, that's pretty cool. But it's the regular 25.5-inch scale. And our bone nut measures 1.66 inches, so a little bit skinnier than some. By our 12th fret, it's only 2.06, but the neck is pretty interesting. First fret neck depth 0.85, and then 0.96 at the 12. However, it's actually a 50s soft V neck profile shape, And that's right, your eyes aren't deceiving you. They did indeed triple dot the side, just for fun. But that means the neck comes to a soft point on the back. So you don't have much shoulder at all to this guitar, but you still have the back to kind of support you. Here's a look at that neck profile at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. You can definitely see what they're talking about. It's not a hard, super ultra V shape, but you definitely feel it in the center, whereas it just really scoops away on the edges. So that's unique, but that's not even the crazy spec. Wait till we get to the back. As far as detailed QC, you can see they try to use like the whitest maple they can find, but you'll still get some wood grain in between, some mineral streaks. Every example will be a little bit different in that aspect, but the whole neck is satin urethane finished, whereas the body is glossy urethane with a matching glossy headstock. So what that means for you is it's a little bit smoother, but as with most new Fender USA products, you can tell they get the finish slightly over the frets in certain areas. But as far as tooling marks, I didn't really notice any. Then we've got 22 medium jumbo style frets. But now the face of our headstock looking very slick here. Again, our powder coated tuning pegs with the chrome accents. But I thought this was cool. Triplecaster is bold, but Fender is just an outline. And then for some reason, they actually powder coated the string tree. I thought for sure that'd be a no-no part since they have a lot of string scratching. And then Jack loves his guitar tech because he put the truss rod adjustment up here. And we'll talk about this crazy goofy loose tuner on the back. But now moving on, there are no control access plates back here, so it's like a regular Tele. So how do they chamber it out? I think they have to have some sort of a top on this, don't they? I was looking at the spec sheet to see if they elaborated on that. I don't see anything. The only other chambered Tele I can think of as a non-Fender guy are the George Harrison Teles, but those get sawn in half. They do their chambering, then they laminate them together with that maple strip in the center. So that makes sense to me, but I don't see any seam lines, and we didn't see any of that in the endoscope footage, so if you know, fill us in the comments section. But we do have a powder-coated output jack plate, but the output jack itself, it's normal. I thought this was a risky move, powder coating your strap buttons. That'll probably be the first thing to wear off, but it is cool. But check out the neck plate. Your serial number is on something that, by the way that they're making it sound, could wear off accidentally one day, rather than being engraved into the metal. I don't know if that's a good idea long term, but hey, it is what it is. But get this. I thought for sure that this was a maple fretboard on top of a maple neck, and that's why the spec sheet says it has a fretboard. No, my friends, zoom in here with me. That is a maple skunk stripe. It's just blending in with the natural mapleness. That would have been an interesting idea to have it be just pure black, like have him inlay ebony into it to continue on your whole black and white theme. But apparently back here he wanted white and black, and that's it. Now going back to rosewood Teles, it's not unheard of to find maple skunk stripes, but typically it's a walnut wood, and I don't think I've ever seen Fender do a maple one like this to blend it in. But I thought that was fascinating. Well, now let's talk about this contraption. So the idea here is you tune it to pitch, and then when you want to go to drop D or whatever tuning you want to do, even if it's only half step, you just push this lever, and that causes this tuner to tilt. Now this is something you have to set up per string gauge, etc. That determines how far the tuner falls until it hits this bolt. So it doesn't just have to be a drop D, you can make it do other things. Like if you want to go really low, you can back it out. If you just want half a step, make it a little bit further. In theory, I think you could also just block it off if you're tired of your tuner moving on you. It's a fun little invention when you get it set up properly. But while all of your other tuners are the regular Fender ones, this is a hip shot extender. But how heavy is the Triplecaster? It is 7 pounds 10 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and get some basic tones from a regular guy playing it. If you want to hear Jack play it and get all the good stuff, they've got that on Fender's channel. We'll start with the knob in the middle position, meaning everything's within the circuit. So first impressions, this kind of reminds me of a Jazzmaster pickup. It's a little bit jangly, but very pleasing to the ears. This humbucker is actually quite surprising as well. Being small, I was almost expecting it to more so be in like mini humbucker territory, but no, that's great in full. But then normally when you go in the middle position, things get a little squirrely because you're blending pickups, but this one doesn't do that. So you just got that P90. I'd say all the positions are pretty beefy. Now stand by. Now let's try that direct. Okay, that one I hear it instantly. Let's do that again. It just gets a little bit more special sauce to it. So again, this is everything in the circuit. I almost want to say out of phase like, but without all the quackiness. Just a little bit more tonk to it. Bit more round, I guess you could say. I'd say similar tone change with that. Now the kill switch. I think I underestimated this thing. I did toy around with it beforehand. It's not the same as the Sanwa Buckethead style, but you can use it pretty decently. Let's go to some distortion. Nothing else from this review. I really love this bridge humbucker. I would put that in some Les Pauls. It's a very dark sounding one, but still clear. As compared to your wide range humbucker. it just has like a little bit more single coil element to it. So you got your dark, your slightly brighter, and then your P90. That's like really attacking it in your face. So the answer is, can it buckethead? Yes, it's just a vastly different feel. It's more clicky. It stands outside of it. And if you want to do the more super duper stutter, double tap and stuff, that's very difficult, but you might be able to get used to it. It is actually pretty good. So there we go. What are my final thoughts on this thing? Wow. This is fantastic. You can have a lot of fun with this thing. I mean, whether you're a fan of Jack White or not, I think you're going to be able to find something that this guitar can do that will make you really excited. Now, personally, I could probably live without the Bigsby, but you don't necessarily have to touch it. But this set of pickups, what an interesting combination. The hardest thing to get your head wrapped around this thing, though, is the middle pickup in your middle position is not your usual, I'm not going to use it all the time, but it's fun for like some cheeky stuff. This is a powerhouse fire breather in and of itself. So you can't forget that. It basically acts as a second bridge pickup, and only the neck kind of has your traditional neck tones. So what I'm saying is it's kind of experimental. It's going to break your mind a little bit, but I think you're going to enjoy it. And if you were scared about all the electronics, basically how I just ended up leaving it for the most part is straight down. That's where you want to be. But if you want to fiddle around with tone and volume controls, just put it to the center and then you're good to go. And having a standby switch is very useful. I would love to see more of these little tilt-a knobs be used in other guitars. And the kill switch, not for everyday use, but you can have some fun with it. Now, as far as the drop D thing, this probably needs set up a little bit better because I could make it do drop D just fine, but when I went back to tune to E, it's always sharp. So that's probably just a minor minor tweaky setup type thing. But that is the key to a lot of his new songs, is that drop D tuning. So my ultimate suggestion is yes, try one of these things out. Are they expensive? Yes, but I think Jack has a really cool signature guitar. So thank you for designing it, man. It's awesome. But all right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.